This is the PL-89 Gematriatic Quantum Thought Calendar. And this is for Wednesday, December 17th, 2025. And tonight is, it's already starting the next day on the Hebrew calendar, but it was Yom Revi'i, which is the fourth day of the week, the 27th day of Kislev, 5786, which was the third day of Hanukkah. At this point in time, right now it's at night, so we're now in the fourth day of Hanukkah, but this is for the third day of Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah, everyone. And this calendar got started in 2012, and it was the Hebrew year 5772, around Elul time, which is September, late August, early September is usually when Elul starts. And this calendar has several uses, but what it is it's a combination of calendars what I would call it, what I have been calling it, is a theory of everything presented in calendar form. And the two main calendars that this calendar holds is the Hebrew calendar, which is a lunar calendar, and the Gregorian calendar, which is a solar calendar. It also has the Julian calendar. And last time I was explaining the reason why the calendar starts here. It starts at 8, and then the next box is you add 9 to it, then you add 8 to it, then you add 9. You just go 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9. And that pattern creates a certain order that I'm going to use some terms, maybe loosely, maybe my own definition of them, but that form different geometries, different structures, different thought structures. You might call it sacred geometry. And I've been working with these numbers as they are presented, and I explained in yesterday's video why I use 8 plus 9. It had to do with the verse in Leviticus chapter 25. It was like verse 23 or something, verse 24, verse 23, maybe 22, that area. And it had to do with the years that followed a sabbatical year. And since the sabbatical year is the laws of the sabbatical year, meaning the seventh year for all farmers, all agricultural workers have fields, produce, you have to let it lay fallow and can't do any work on it. And that parsha, that's all laid out in the parsha of Bahar, which starts in Leviticus 25. And there's the amount of times that a variant of the word goel in Hebrew means redeemer, but goel means, there's some variant of it, not just redeemer, but to redeem, gaal, or goalo, his redeemer, or geula, redemption. That word or variant of it occurs more in Bahar than in any other parsha. So if we're looking towards the final redemption, the thought came to me that it would be a good idea to look in this parsha, especially that there were times in Tanakh that, I can't remember exactly where, but it said that God said, I will take back what you've stolen from me. Like he would make Israel pay for what they had worked, and they had to go to exile for 70 years. And it's interesting, same number, like 70. Like I'll take back what the land had not rested. The land should rest is very important to God, and it's also connected to many things of that order, 6 and then 7, like 6 days of work and seventh day of rest, or you got 6 years of work, seventh year, and you have 7 sabbaticals, which is a jubilee, and so forth. So this calendar, so Parshas Bahar, basically I was explaining that 8 plus 9 were the 2 years that come after the 7th year, the 8th and 9th year. The Torah mentions those and stops there, 8 and 9. So that was the idea behind this, to connect to that. And so today, what I would like to just explain is the time span here. Now, columns, in Hebrew, columns and rows, vertical and horizontal, are known as shti ve'erev in different contexts. It's in Leviticus, but it has to do with a material, like the crisscross, like ups and down, like a weave. I think it's woven, right? The vertical and the horizontal is known as shti ve'erev. I think in English it's called the warp and the woof. And I'm going to go again, but there are 8 shtis, or shtim, meaning 8 columns. The vertical lines here are called shti. So it's a shti aleph, shti bet, shti gimel, meaning shti 1, shti a, you could say shti b. And the rows are called erevs, because erev, like you might have heard of an erev, that's a line that makes something into an enclosed area. It can make something considered a private property that one may carry on Shabbat. And the singular of that is called an erev, but the plural would be erevin. There's a tractate in the Babylonian Talmud called erevin. It's like the nun at the end would be equivalent to a mem, like saying erevim. Like in plural, when you say im at the end, it's plural. So in Aramaic, the equivalent of that is in with a nun. So eruvim is like saying eruvim, meaning many eruvs. But an eruv is basically, it's known by its horizontal nature, but really you need 2 things. You need a shti and an eruv. You need a horizontal, you need a vertical piece, a vertical thing, and to hold up the line. I think it's to hold the line, but it may not. I think it's to hold the line, but you need something vertical. Let's put it that way. And you need a horizontal. But it's known as an erev. But you still need a shti and an erev. So that's what this is called. The rows are called shtis, and this is called erev. Okay? And there are 8 shtis and there are 10 erevs. That makes 80 boxes. And then there's another additional erev on the bottom that's not seen here. It's called the 10-day twilight period, which is the last 10 days of any 3-month period. Like 80 days would be mostly 3 months, and then 10 more days, 90 days would make it 3 months. But the question is, why did I choose 3 months? What's special about 3 months? I'll bring 2 sources from the Bible about that, and just put a pause and right back. Okay, back now. I'm going to go to the later source before the earlier source, because it was the main source for a long time, and the later source, meaning the earlier source, actually came later. I found it out later. So here's one that I always said, and it's the main reason why this is 3 months. And I mentioned that 3 months is mentioned in the Chumash, in the Bible, meaning the 5 books of Moses, at least 2 times that I can remember right now. And the main time is this right here. It's in Exodus chapter 2. I'll start from the beginning. Vayelech ish mi beit Levi, and a man went from the house of Levi. Vayikach et bat Levi, and took a daughter of Levi, which means he married her. Vatahar ha'isha, and the woman became pregnant. Vateled ben, and she gave birth to a son. And this is, as we know, this is eventually going to be, this is Moses. Mi beit Levi, I'm sorry. Vatar ha'isha v'teled ben, and she gave birth to a son. Vatere oto kitovu, and she saw that he was good. What does that mean? Rashi says that when he was born, the house became full of light. Okay. But okay, she saw that he was very good. Vatitzpneu shilosha yirachim. That is the source right there. Vatitzpneu shilosha yirachim means she hid him for 3 months. And this is the Redeemer, the first Redeemer of Israel, and he was hid for a specific amount of time. 3 months. Why 3 months? I don't know, but when I look at this and I see the 80 boxes, and then I see the 10-day twilight, then I can see that that's that amount of time that Moses was hid for. This amount of time. Maybe there's something about this amount of time that has something to do with the redemption. Since he was the first Redeemer, and it's from his infancy, it's talked about that amount of time. Maybe there's something to learn from it. Okay, let's continue. It says, "V'lo yachla od hatzpino." She could no longer hide him. Why? I don't know, but she couldn't hide him any longer. V'tikach lo tevat gome. She took for him a basket, wicker basket, I think. V'techamra b'chefer. She pitched it. She smeared it with pitch. V'zefet. Chemar is. I don't know the exact translation. Chemar is like tar or pitch. Zefet, maybe it's pitch also. I'm not sure the exact translation, but it's some kind of material that holds it together. Vatasem ba et hayeled vatasem basuf. And she put the boy and she put him on the water, also on the suf, on the marsh. At the bank of the river bank. Sifat, not the beach, but like the edge of the water. And she sent him off on his way. And then the rest is history. He went down the river, and then the daughter of Pharaoh saw it and took her as her own. Moses became a noble, a prince in Egypt, and then the rest of the Exodus story. And that's one source of a Redeemer that is connected to 3 months. Now, there's another span of about 3 months, and it's a very interesting language. And we have to dial the clock back a bit into the story of Genesis, where, if you all remember, in Genesis 38, the story where Judah goes down, he's sort of separated from his brothers temporarily, and he went to Timnah, I think. He met someone, Dulamite. And then he met a Canaanite woman whose father's name was Shua. And he had some children, some sons. They died. One of the sons' wife was named Tamar. And both of her husbands, meaning Judah's sons, died. And it was a concept, it was a practice known as a Levirate marriage, meaning that she should marry the next one in line so that they could she could keep the family name going. But Judah, because two of the sons already died, Aaron and Onan had died because of the sins they committed. And the next on line was Shelah, but Yehuda was afraid that maybe Shelah would die too. So he said, let's hold off on it for a little while. And I think Tamar became impatient. I don't know if it was impatient was the word, but she had some kind of vision that she needed to take action. So she dressed up as a prostitute, which is a very mysterious kind of a thing. I don't know how Judah wouldn't recognize her, but apparently she was able to disguise herself some way. And he just thought she was a prostitute, and why he would visit a prostitute is even more puzzling. But it says in the verse openly, explicitly, it says that he thought that she was a prostitute because she covered her face. And he made a deal, how much will you, what's your price? Name your price for me to do the deed with you. Do the nasty deed. Anyway, they did the deed. And guess what? She became pregnant. And it says in the verse, Vayehi kim shalosh chadashim. It was about 3 months, but it's a very interesting word. Kim shalosh. It could have said kishalosh, like 3 months. Kim shalosh is like, it's a little bit redundant. Seems like a little bit awkward way of saying it. Kim shalosh. Rashi says Rubo shel Rishon, Rubo shel Achron, V'emtzai Shalom, meaning that the first part was most of the first month, meaning like a little bit into the first month, and like most of the last month and the full middle month. And Rashi says the lashon of Kim shalosh chadashim ki hashtalesh chadashim k'mo mishloach manot mishloach yadam. He brings two cases in Tanakh where they say mishalosh. Like he brings the Purim story. What's the Purim story about? The Purim story, there is a connection between Adar and a certain point in the Purim story, which is the 23rd day of Sivan, when the letters went out that they could find, which is about 3 months after Purim, which is interesting. It's like it connects Shavuos with Purim. But Rashi brings something from the book of Esther about that time. Mishloach Yadam. Okay, he just says that, it's a lashon, but it doesn't really explain why. Ki mishalosh. So, my technique, my method is always gematria. Gematria can answer almost any question, because that's why for me gematria is very satisfying. If you just get the gematria, Kamishlos Chadashim, you get a number. You get a number, now you can plug it into anything else, that number shows up. And in the beginning you might get all kinds of chaotic and crazy results, but sometimes you really get some good insights from it. So those are two examples of where 3 months, and you'll notice that when Moses was hid, it said Yerachim, which is one way of saying month. It has to do with the moon. Yerach is the moon. But when it says Chodashim, it also means a month, but Chod Chadash means new. So it's a language of new. But why is one used in one place than the other? It's also, I don't know the reason. Topic for further inquiry. But back to the calendar. This is that time span, Kimi Shalosh, after those two examples. Now, I look at the calendar every day and I see today, let's just say today was the 27th of Kislev. So immediately I'm going to see, this is the box for the 27th day of any month. There's no names of months here. It's a calendar, it's just numbers, and you plug in whatever calendar you need or you want, you're looking for, you plug it in. I plugged in the Islamic calendar into this, and I was using it in addition to, back in Elul time, there's a month in the Islamic calendar called Rabi Elul. Sounds a lot like Elul. Elul sounds like Elul, right? Well, this year it wasn't Elul. Now, I think on the Islamic calendar, they can drift, so it's not always, but this year, interestingly enough, it was in Elul. And it's about the same day as our Hebrew calendar, because it's also a lunar calendar. But something about the way they run they manage the calendar is that the months can drift throughout the year. One month will not, like the Rabi Elul can be in the fall one year, and it can be in the spring in a different year, or gradually further up, different every year. So when I look at 4, what I see is this. I see immediately, I see that tonight is the 4th night of Hanukkah. Meaning, but today, this was the 3rd day of Hanukkah. But right now, when I'm making this, it's the 4th night of Hanukkah. Tonight. Right now, it's the 4th night of Hanukkah. So I would say that that's connected to today. Just, if it's one off, you can... That's the secret and the power of Kohalim, I think, in Gematria. It can be one off. Not always. I have different moods and modes. Like sometimes I think it has to be exact, and it can't be one off. But there is a source to our basis for Kohalim, and I think being one off is in that same category. So 4 would represent the 4th night of Hanukkah. It can also represent the fact that even on the 3rd night of Hanukkah, there were 4 lights. Think about it. The shamash, meaning the light was still there. The servant candle was still there. So if you looked at it, you would see 4 lights. That's what I see when I see 4. No, that's as far as 27th day of Kislev goes. But what about the 17th day of December? Okay, that would be right here, box 39. The coordinates would be Shti Zion and Erev Vav. I forgot to tell you that 4 is Shti Aleph and Erev 8. Okay. But the Shti Zion and Erev Vav Zu is 39. 39 is Zu. Zu means this. And 39 equals a few things. It equals 3 times Echad. Okay. But there's a rule called the rule of 40. Now the rule of 40 means you can add 40 to any number. So 39 becomes 79. 79 becomes 119. So 39 is 119 by the rule of 40 in this calendar. And 119 was a major number today. 119 is the gematria of the name Ben Oni. If you remember a few parshas ago when Benjamin was born, he was born to his mother Rachel, and she, shortly after giving birth to him, or she died as she gave birth to him. And the Torah writes in Parshas Vayishlach, Torah, it says in the Parsha that, in the Chumash, that his mother called him Ben Oni. However, his father Jacob called him Benjamin. And Ben Oni has a numerical value of 119, which is the same value of the word Dim'ah. Dim'ah means tear. Just one tear. But it's written that Rachel cries for her children. Rachel mivaka, kol rama nishma nachi bechi tamrurim. Rachel mivaka al baneha, ki enenu. Jeremiah 31, I think somewhere. 31, 4 maybe? No, I was somewhere. 34? Not sure where it is, but I think it's in 31. And maybe it's 14. Anyway, so if Rachel is crying and Rachel has tears, when someone cries, they need to have a minimum of 2 tears. So Dima 119 plus Dima 119, those are 2 tears. That's symbolic of all you need to cry. Even though crying is many more than that, but we're being hyper literal for a purpose, because 119 plus 119 equals 238, and 238 equals Rachel. That was spoken in the gematria of Parshat Vayishlach, but today it came up as well. Today 119 is also the gematria of the word me'at, meaning a little. Me'at is a little, and in this week's Torah portion, again, Benjamin is in view, because Judah becomes the guarantor. He says that he's the guarantor to make sure that Benjamin will come safely back to Jacob, his father, who Benjamin was the only son left from his beloved wife. Rachel had passed, and Benjamin was especially beloved to him. And Jacob said, and his name is Israel also, so Israel said, Vayomer Alehem Yisrael Avihen Ein Im Ken Epo Zot Asu K'chu Lachem Nizimrat Haaretz Bichlehem V'horidu Li'ish Mincha Me'at Tzori U'me'at Devash Nachot Velot, Botnim Mushkedim. And what he said was that if it must be that you go to Egypt with my beloved son Benjamin, and you have to take him, who knows what can happen to him, but here, bring these things to the man, this mysterious man in Egypt, who was Joseph, unbeknownst to them at the time. Bring a little bit of balm, tsori. Some people translate it balsam, but I think it's balm. Many people translate balm. Maybe I'm mistaken about that, but I've seen balm a lot. I thought it was balsam also, but maybe it's just balm. Anyway, and a little bit of honey. And over there it says ma'at and ma'at also, which is 119. And I developed some Torah on those words. But what's interesting and why it's important to this calendar is that it shows up today on this calendar, because 119 is literally equal to 39 by the rule of this calendar. So on December 17th, when I'm in the box of 39, I am dealing with the word 119, and it wasn't intentional. But those are some explanations on how this calendar should work.